Wonderful. So we just went live and we're just going to give it about 60 seconds for folks to trickle in. Great. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our fireside chat portion of Digital Front Door Day, where you've been through some visionary panels and future thinking of sessions and case studies. And now's the time to really dive deep and actually bring yourselves to the stage. I've got here, so I will already introduce you folks because we have people trickling in. For way of introduction, Liat here from Hyro. I'm thrilled to be your fireside host. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat, which I'll be moderating. Our speakers and good friends today are Sarah Mankis, Senior Director, Enterprise IT Ambulatory Network Innovation at Baptist Health, and Pete Dadeo, Director of Enterprise Technology from Moffitt Cancer Center. They're going to share their expertise on what it means to be an IT and digital leader today in healthcare. What are the demands? What are the pain points? What are some tips for success? All that good stuff. And then feel free to really ask your questions once they're done bringing their part to the presentation as we open up the discussion later on. So Sarah, I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself, and then Pete, and I will be here in the chat.
Thanks so much for the warm welcome, Liat. Sarah Mankis, Senior Director, Enterprise IT, as she mentioned. What does that look like in my world? So I'm Baptist Health Jacksonville. We have about 6 hospitals, 57 primary cares, over 200 points of access across our organization, multiple specialties, lots of ancillary services. In my day-to-day, I'm responsible for our financial and business-centric applications. I'm also responsible for our affiliate partnerships with our community practitioners, and I oversee our virtual care and care at home programs here at Baptist. Pete?
Thank you, and thank you, Liat. So I'm Pete Dadeo. I'm the Director of Enterprise Technology at Moffitt Cancer Center, which is located in Tampa, Florida. So you have the Florida contingent here on this fireside chat. I've been there for about almost 6 years. So as the last 6 years have gone on, technology certainly mean different things. So under my purview is everything foundational technology. We have network and servers and storage and data centers and end user computing and unified communications and cloud and everything that is foundational. So we are now a 2-hospital system as of a few months ago with 5 clinical buildings. We are primarily a cancer hospital and specialty, if you will. We're NCI designated for Florida, and we are continuing to grow within the Tampa Bay area and beyond. So I'm really excited to be here.
So, Pete, it's interesting. We're both Floridians here, so hopefully you're enjoying some of the good weather. I heard in a couple of the earlier chats that I think we have a whole variety of different individuals. I had an opportunity to take a look at the attendee list. So, the intention of this is to, really make it interactive. This is not just Pete and I, talking at you. This is an opportunity to collaborate and ideate and share some things that are, working for you at your organization, as well as, perhaps things that you learned from us along the way. I was recently just sharing with Pete. So I brought a visual. So, there's lots of challenges in the ever-changing landscape of healthcare, different terrains that we're having to navigate, whether that's going to be financial constraints, shrinking margins, staffing shortages. We're having a significant staffing shortage with physicians, even with our clinical caregivers that have been, leaving the healthcare field. And, that is something that IT is not necessarily immune to. So, our focus has continued to evolve. So us being able to adapt and navigate the changes that are being presented to us, certainly is one of the challenges that I've experienced. In particular, just to give you guys a visual, because I love having like something for people to look at. Is this what your world looks like? Lots of, different siloed applications, integration points, SFTPs. This visual that I just showed you guys is literally the world of transactions. I won't get into the specifics of, what application. That's one application with all the different outbound and inbound, touch points along the way. But that tells me that, where we are is a very transactionary state, right? We need to be making pivots to a more elastic and dynamic environment to be able to, flex based off of our organizational needs and being able to achieve our business objectives easily. That's tons of, manpower, configurations, integration points, and then the supporting infrastructure to, make things happen. People think, or at least our clinical customers sometimes think you can, snap your fingers and say, yeah, I can produce that, right? I can give you that report. I can give you that dashboard. There's a lot of work that goes into, making things happen for our clinical customers. That's going to make a difference in their everyday areas of responsibility. So that's just, one piece of the challenge that we're, experiencing. And I think I touched on a few more just in that, high level overview. Pete, what about you? What are you guys contending with?
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to continue that conversation because you touched on so many things, and all of the things that you mentioned, and especially when it comes to a clinical practice and those expectations is, from my side, how do I deliver technology to support that like right away? Hey, we need 2 petabytes of storage. You don't have that, right? You don't have that handy? We don't. However, with that being said, we have to figure out how to be flexible, how to be agile. And there's obviously many ways to do that, but you're bogged down with, you've got to take care of the day-to-day. You have to make sure that your clinical practice runs efficiently. Patient care, patient safety, making sure all those things happen while along that large and long spectrum. How do we get to a place where we can be, again, more agile, and how can we deliver? Looking at your chart gives me heartburn. However, I got a similar one, and then things like app rationalization. Yeah, I would really love to do that. I'll throw it out there. AI, really love to do that, and a bunch of other things. So how do we navigate these challenges of what do we do first? Are we putting out fires today? Are we doing something forward thinking and strategic tomorrow, but then do we have to go back and put out fire? So a lot of those types of challenges, and that, those are the things that we deal with on a daily basis. I always say that I have not had a slow day in about 10 years. I've never clock watched, just because there's so many things that are needed, so many things to do. And then just how do you prioritize all that? So I'm right there with you with a lot of those challenges of being at the forefront of digital transformation. However, I've got to make sure that systems and desktops and mobile devices are running in this clinic because of just from a patient safety perspective. So that's really the broad spectrum of it. So, and certainly love to hear from all of our attendees. If you want to put comments in the chat to see, what some of your pain points are as well.
We'll give them just a second.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody also has heartburn.
I know. Well, I'm surprised somebody didn't go into, some type of tachycardia.
Talking about our health challenges with regards to healthcare. So, it only makes sense.
Well, we'll wait for some of that to come in, Pete. But,
Sure.
You mentioned storage, but storage comes with a cost. So, I think about how we're managing that. A lot of organizations I know at Baptist, run the cloud journey. And it is, quite a investment for organizations, where you're essentially getting out of the iron business, right? Data centers are, at least in my experience, less, physical locations, more directionally to the cloud. So just curious if you've had some, challenges with either igniting that strategy or, how you guys are managing it.
No, it's a very good question, and it is a challenge for us. And one of what we're trying to figure out is how to balance between what is a business strategy, what are our clinical strategies, versus me being technology minded. How do I sync that up with a technology strategy and journey? Because I look at myself as a service provider. Sure, I'm the hardware guy, I'm the infrastructure guy, I'm a service provider, and I need to provide services to the business from a clinical perspective, from a research perspective, and then from a back office perspective. Well, we were chatting about that before the session started, about clinical research are important, but we have a lot of back office operations. So taking all that into account, how do we start that cloud journey? We are certainly in the cloud, but now we're working through how to devise a more mature strategy. How do we make ourselves nimble? How do we use the opportunities? But then the biggest thing, of course, is governance and compliance and the risk of it. You hear stories every single day when it comes to security challenges. So do we stop because, there's a risk involved with it, or do we navigate through that to find the best way to utilize cloud, and then move forward? So it's certainly probably very similar to what your challenge is, but it's really finding the way forward to be able to benefit not just from an IT perspective, but certainly the organization.
And it looks like, Liat, you put a poll out there for us. So we're really curious, what you guys are contending with at your organizations.
Yep, just making sure that you see this poll answers. I see people still trickling in with their responses.
Well, and staffing challenges, as we've already spoken to, is not a surprise. And that's across the board too. Sarah, you mentioned that earlier. Clinical, IT, business, HR, all of the different back office and shared services, all are experiencing staffing challenges.
Yep. No surprise.
So if we take staffing challenges, do we still have answers coming in?
Looks like we're good. Yep.
Looks like we're good. So from a staffing challenge perspective, Sarah, what are some of the things that Baptist has done or is doing?
Yep. Well, I think with many other organizations, we have to get very creative with the resources we have. So, really investing into upskilling and continuing to train and educate our team members to make them, more cross-functional. So leveraging those skill sets and, things that, perhaps they haven't historically done. So you may have an analyst that has a interest in becoming a Azure certified, engineer. We support that. So career laddering for that retention, it's certainly something that, we continue to drive forward at our organization. Especially with that, like I said earlier, tight margins. So, contracting resources for, efforts is a thing of the past, and it's used very judiciously when we bring in, third-party partners, because it's very costly. Why are we not just investing those dollars into our team members to, continue to keep that talent at our organization? Additionally, at Baptist, while it's not all about the awards, but, making sure that we're continuing to find ways that are going to differentiate Baptist from other organizations that are going to either draw in the talent pool. So whether that's participating in your HIM certifications, Most Wired, or, insert award here that you're looking to pursue that's going to continue to bring in that talent pool, whether that's locally from the Florida market or, nationally. So that's just a few things.
No, and that resonates with me because it is the razor's edge of how to stay ahead, how to draw talent, how to be out there, yet to your point, with tight margins and skill set adoptions that are changing almost daily. So to your point, how do we get some of our staff who have been skilled in certain things, skilled to new things and new ideas and new opportunities? And then what we're doing is we're trying to find those manual processes or processes that could be automation, or hence I say AI, but really using that to augment a lot of the things we've traditionally done either manually or through steps, and then really use better quality time for our staff. We took some of the lessons from the pandemic and we moved to a remote workforce, and not just remote to our local community, but also remote to certain states in the United States. Depending on laws and taxes and such, but and really that opens up the opportunity for talent. And from a perspective of, hey, if we have open positions, what do? We look for how do we opportunize that to where we can have maybe two to fill one position, if you will. Looking at potential offshoring and managed services and things like that, to where we've got a lot of standard processes and standard procedures that we can have augmented through we'll say cheaper managed services, and then we can really focus on what we need to do moving forward, continuing that digital transformation.
Yeah, and when you talk digital transformation, my mind goes to digital strategy, and thinking about how we in the IT world, right, for so many years it's been a siloed operation where you have technologies that are being selected and implemented without operational buy-in or support, or those champions that are going to be necessary to really serve as your evangelist, right, that's going to say, hey, you should do this. The times are changing, and we're going through an ERP transformation, which is not just about it's not just about the platform, right? That's the easy part. Implementing something's super easy. There is a ton of business transformation work that has to be done to ensure that we're positioning ourselves for success. So whether that's policy and procedure redevelopment, pay practice redesign, all of that's going to dovetail into how we design and implement this system. So this is an effort that is really being co-led, by myself and an operational leader that is, really speaking those, business processes and how we can look at, the technologies that are going to be forthcoming that's going to complement and really help to meet their core objectives. So whether that's, external recruitment to, supply chain operations and how that's going to intersect with our clinical applications. So it's a tremendous uplift, right? And it's a change in culture with how we're engaging with, our partners and the whether it's in the clinical space or, in this situation, the business operational space. So, I think about, as time goes on, and I recently took on this financial and business team probably within the last year. And I don't think they knew what to do with me, Pete, because they're like, why are you trying to come into my house? Like, what are you doing? What do you have to offer to me? So building that relationship and that, trust with, your operational stakeholders is a, cornerstone with, getting the, essentially them leaning into you as a trusted advisor. It's not us telling them, how they need to, transact their business. It's us informing them on, how technology is going to complement the things that they're trying to achieve.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, we're also going through an ERP journey, if you will. So, but I want to highlight that point too, because you're right. There's so many different areas involved, so many different stakeholders. And it is that, sure, we can implement the system. It's not easy, but you're right. Once it's implemented, that just changes our life and changes our daily processes. But to your point with regard to technology, let's show how technology can be a great augment to help a lot of our workflows. So, and I also completely agree with you when it comes to not just stakeholder buy-in, whether it's clinical, research, shared service or back office, but partnerships within the business. One of the things that I try to do, and I don't want to say I'm layers down, but being at the technology gateway, if you will, one of the things I do is do monthly or bi-monthly rounds around the hospitals and the clinical buildings, because I want to know what's going on. And I talk to patients, I talk to nurses, I talk to doctors, because I want to understand how technology is helping or maybe not helping. And how can I bring a better platform, a better IT delivery, a transformation to help some of those things. And I've learned so much in rounding and talking to different stakeholders that it's helped inform what my strategy is and how can I help the organization move forward. Yes, it's amongst many, many other things that are going on, but it really is important to adopt that, to really understand, here's why I'm here, here's why I do my job, and here's what I need to deliver on. So it's been very beneficial. But yeah, to your point, you starting a new team, I've kind of gone through that a little bit too, to say we're in a new era, if you will, and this is how we need to move forward. So it's not just surprising the teams, but it's also how can I help bring you forward to say the goalpost is here now. We need to move towards it, and I'm going to support your journey there.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned rounding on your customers, because I think, in generality, right, our focus is delivering healthcare. So there's, that high touch with your physicians, your nursing staff, and being at the elbow with them. I am a huge proponent of shoulder surfing and, being out there, and you get the real when you are out there with your customers, the good, the bad, the ugly. You get to see the creative workarounds that are put in place, and you identify some opportunities, and then you also see some of the things that are, exceptional, right? Because there's a lot of times where people come up with, creative solutions organically. They might take an idea, or a process and incubate that and make it that much better.
Absolutely. And and I like your shoulder surfing comment, because that's really it. I mean, that really does highlight what's there. And I want to certainly highlight what you mentioned about how, if clinicians, nurses, and others can really benefit and show a benefit from, hey, you know what, I really would like if this was done, or this doesn't work for us, let's do this. And then we could deliver on it. And I could say, guess who brought that to us? It was this nurse or this person or this department. It really does shine, and it really does bring that. And then, to your point, it does bring an incubation of ideas, because we have a very strong informatics practice, and I partner with them all the time, because they're that conduit for me, but also we do it together. It's not just, hey, let me go to informatics, tell me what's going on and we'll figure it out. No, let's go together. Let's do the things together and really come up with solutions that work. And I mean, even to the certain lower levels, if you will, of like wireless scanners, we had issues with them, got a few ideas, and we brought about a better solution to just practice workflow and whatnot that really shined on how we can be better. So it really is telling on how you can see who's at the forefront, get them to work with you, and then have great outcomes.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. We have a poll, and we have a couple of questions in the chat too, Pete.
Yes, we do.
So while we wait for the poll to come in, let's see. Rachel, our challenge is balancing flexibility and digital solutions versus standardization across the organization in terms of workflow tools, Zooms, team. Yes. I think the struggle is real, Rachel, right?
Yes,
you're looking at platform unification, which means buy-in and agreement, and somebody compromising on, hey, this is the best solution for us, and it solves our problem. So I totally can relate. And if anybody has any ideas or has cracked that nut on how to do that outside of, lots of hard work and, going through processes with your clinical and operational champions to come to a consensus, please let me know.
So one thing I'll say to that is we, like every other organization, go through that challenge. But one way we're trying to tackle it is through standardization and offerings, is to say, oh, I didn't know we had that tool, or, oh, I didn't know that was a organizational supported tool or an offering. And also to ping our stakeholders to say, well, what do you need? Because I think Zoom, Slack, and Teams is a great example. And there's many others, but it's how do we make sure we have offerings that can meet somewhat of a wide spectrum? And that's actually helped us with a natural app rationalization. We have a lot of work to do still. We haven't figured it out, but we've made some inroads there through standards on offerings to say, this is our standard platform. If there are things that you can't do in this platform, let's have that conversation. But it is helping, but yeah, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And Pete, just curious, have you guys, well, you have a standard suite, and I know I'm actually going through this right now where we have, requests that are coming in for niche solutions. Do you have a policy or, guardrails around, we need to pursue or look at what's in our inventory today? So for example, you have something that's going to solve that business problem, but it, might give them, 10 times the functionality that they actually need. That's something that I'm contending with. So, if it meets 80% or, 90%, whatever your threshold is, do you say no?
I'm going to have to say it depends. And here's the reason why. So if that example comes in a perfect scenario, then yes, we are actually using the portfolio of tools and platforms that we have to solve that problem. What we're working on and we're getting better organizationally it's been, hey, I bought this thing, please go implement. And we're trying to get away from that to say, I have this requirement, I need to do X, and then see if there is a portfolio option for that, again, for whether it's clinical, HR, finance, whatever the case is. So we're making inroads there, but that's really a cultural change for us that we're doing better at, and we're finding some success there.
Yeah, we get a little bit of pushback when it's like, hey, have you thought about, this other solution that we're already using today? And it's like, no, but we want this. So, it's a fine balancing act that I find that we're having to step ourselves through. So whether that's with a supporting business case or, what's the investment or the lift. So, really trying to factor that in. So, it's definitely, something that I think that most on this call, have probably experienced, if they're in the healthcare field or, or maybe even a vendor,
Yeah, and I'd love to see some comments in the chat on what others may be doing to either work through that, refine it, or even some of the challenges that you've had. So it looks like do we have our official poll results?
Looks like it. I know we have the other one, and I think RPA came in as the first one, Liat. I don't know if we skipped over that, but we can jump to this one. Looks like most are desiring that patient access, automating call center workflows. Yep, right. Concierge contact center is something that I think many organizations are striving towards. We're on that journey now where we have a team that's being established to who wants to sit on hold and wait for somebody to pick up the phone versus getting the answer that they need right then and there, whether that's through the phone or through a chat bot or something along those lines that's going to get them immediate results.
Right, and we're going through a similar journey as well, and we're trying to take it to where what are all of the avenues that the different populations would like to use. Some will still make phone calls, some like chat, some like other interfaces, and how can we bring as many as we can but still have a seamless experience? And that's what we're challenged with now. But we are using partners, and we're finding we could tackle those challenges. But I agree, who wants to wait on hold? Nobody does.
No one. And it's interesting that you touch on that. I think about the 360 view of the patient that we're trying to strive towards. So and I'm sure everybody can open up their iPhone or their Android, and you're filled with apps, right? An app for this, an app for that. Every organization desires to have their own app or access point. It's tailoring it to what are the needs of our patients? What are the needs of our consumers? Is an app the right way to go? Is it something that's a bit more web reactive and agnostic versus having to download yet another icon on your home screen? So I think that's something that, it'll be interesting to see where we go, just directionally in the healthcare field, because I think as we're making that shift towards consumerism and, being able to meet those needs and expectations that are being set forth, within, our population that we serve, we've got to be dynamic in our approaches to how we're, giving those individuals, access points that are preferred to them.
Absolutely. And I agree. And I think that is where the challenge is because is there any synergy to the type of either platform or offering that we can do? I know for us, and I'm sure this is the case with many healthcare organizations, and I'm sure with Baptist as well, as, hey, we want to do an app, to your point. We want to streamline text messaging, and we want to streamline a bunch of these things. And then, we have a large patient population that's using flip phones. So, okay, how do they text back? Well, 22122, those are years ago, but there are some that still do that. So how can we give them a presentation and a portfolio, if you will, and an experience that can be similar to one who has got an iPhone, Android, and they just want to go app-based? So I think that's the biggest challenge, but I think it's bring an offering, and the adoption will probably be larger than we expect because it's new. It's just that seamless panel for that patient experience, to your point. So it is somewhat challenging, but I think if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. One would think, but there is another question, Pete, in the chat. How does IT pass technology operations to ensure that adoption and use continues to improve? Ooh, so now somebody's singing my song, which is metrics,
Yes,
performance
very good
metrics
question.
in particular. Do you want to start?
Sure. So that is definitely a challenge. Hey, we build things, we do things. Oh, and we need to support them day to day. Oh, I forgot about that part. However, with that, you're right. It is metrics is a big part of it, but there's also a practice to it as well. I challenge to use the term DevOps, but there's a lot of times where, and this isn't just application based, this is also in my area where we either develop or implement something, but then, oh, that's right, we have to do the ops part of it as well. So it is a challenge, and it's a staffing challenge. It's an availability challenge, if you will, but we're working on more of an agile mindset and framework to be able to deliver technology, to implement technology, but also operationalize it, having more tools to be able to have insight into our platforms and use workflows and use automation to be able to do some of those tasks where, as the question asks, how is it adopted? Well, the old days, you would have a team just watching stuff. Here are the TV screens, what's green, what's red, and you start workflows and whatnot. So we're working on technologies to be able to augment that and have our folks be able to get back to the administration and implementation and doing those forward-thinking things. It's a challenge because, we're healthcare. We're 24/7. So how do we continue moving that forward? We don't have it fully figured out, but we're making those inroads.
Strides in the right direction. I think about actionable data and being able to, have that mutual accountability. So, if we're going to produce, a KPI or a metric that's monitoring, adoption of, X, we need to make sure that we have the right leaders in the conversation that's going to, continue to drive it home that, hey, we've invested time, effort, energy, and dollars into a solution, and we need to make sure that we're utilizing it to its fullest potential. And I don't think that we've done, universally a good job. I mean, in some areas or pockets, you might be looking at, just adoption metrics in general, right? Where you can look at narrowing some of those, gaps or, identify opportunities for efficiencies. But is it done consistently in all areas? I know it's a bit more in the clinical space. And, now with me kind of bridging into this business, financial, and supply chain space, you're introducing these core concepts that, are native to our clinical customers. How are your physicians performing? What is their efficiency score? What is their pajama time? Taking those core concepts and being able to translate that over into the business world is, something that's equally important.
And one thing I'll add to that too is that just going back within IT, one of the challenges that we're working through is, we used to have single ownership of platforms or services or things. And that's just not true anymore because it is a multidisciplinary, multi-team effort to support, whether it's a platform, it's an offering and whatnot. So we're working through how to navigate that, and especially when it comes to a support matrix, if you will, just to be more specific on a platform, and we're going with RACI charts, and we're at R prime now. So who's R prime? But there are multiple vectors into a platform to say, how do we support it? So, going back to the question, how do we pass it to operations? It's almost like it's their team, so in figuring a lot of that out, and I'm sure, Sarah, in your role, because you have multiple touch points, it's a little bit more difficult, but it's forcing us to come up with solutions on how to do that. And for us too, it's also partnering with vendors and such to help us with some of that, to be able to come up with processes, if you will.
And Liat, you have posed a really great question, and I would love to hear, from anyone that's still participating, what should we be doing? What should we be looking at? I can tell you that, the demands of the role are continuing to increase. But, what I would say is partnership with your stakeholders. That partnership leads to trust and, them, bringing you into the conversation early on. And I certainly think that that's a great place to start. Understand what their operational strategic plan is and how, IT, IS can back into that and support that and complement, what they're trying to achieve. What should they keep top of mind? And, I'm surprised that this hasn't come up yet. I think a lot about interoperability and the regulations, as well as cyber, and Pete, that's probably near and dear to your heart. There's a lot of, attempts on penetrating the healthcare, our healthcare infrastructure. So, just keep in tune with everything that's happening in the cyber arena, with TAFCA, serving as that super highway that is on the horizon. I'd certainly stay in tune with that. Additionally, I'd stay in tune with what's happening at the federal level related to AI. There will be legislation at some point that is it's being discussed. So just stay in tune with that. So you can be prepared and poised to adjust any of those guardrails or policies that you've put in place going into 24. Those are a few things that I have top of mind.
No, and I agree with everything you said, Sarah, because that's so top of mind for the rest of this year and 2024. One thing I'll add is you mentioned partnership, and the partnership, and I'll say partnership, but it's so true. But I think the other side too is, as you work with your vendors, if you're not already, make sure you're working with vendors who are partners. They come to the table, they work with you, they work for you. They are there. They know your roadmaps. They know your challenges. They're bringing ideas. They're bringing solutions that help your organization. They're not selling you on products. And that is going to be key as we move forward. We talked about staffing challenges. We talked about the amount of work, app rationalization. That's where your partnerships with your vendors can be so critical moving forward. So everything Sarah said, and that's what I'm going to add to it.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions or comments from our illustrious audience? Like I said, I saw the list. I mean, we had some, pretty big organizations that were going to be participating. So I'm curious if anybody has anything else to add.
Yeah, flip a topic in there if it's something you like for us to discuss, and also have more discussion within the chat.
And my question is, how can these folks reach you if they have any other questions, if possible?
Yep. And Liat, I think you have all my information. You can share it. Email me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there. So just smoke signals, I probably won't get.
Same for me. Liat, you should have my information as well. I'm active on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email. The bat signal sometimes works. It just depends if I'm busy, but definitely feel free to reach out.
Amazing. Well, at this time, we are just behind the 2-minute mark. So we'll let folks have a break because we have been here since the morning. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I'm sure folks will reach out to you as well offline. And I'd like to let our attendees know that right now there's a 5-minute break, and then we've got 2 breakout rooms. One will be with Seattle Children's CIO, Dr. Zafar Chaudhry. He'll be presenting a case study on the key to a more connected and patient-centered healthcare system. And in the other room, we've got our ladies from Ballad Health discussing the power of personalization and technology in the healthcare consumer journey. So Sarah, Pete, maybe you can join us there unless you have a busy day ahead. And if not, thank you so much again, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Both, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.